Justin.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if you could all please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a roll call, Stacey.
Justin Rock,
Here.
David Glabe,
Here.
Green Dudo,
Here.
Nicole Howard, Molly King is absent excused, Marianne Miesner,
Here.
Denise Wheeler.
Here.
All right. There were no, sorry, wrong script. The city council will meet in an executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660 to review and evaluate the employee-related performance of the chief executive officer of any public body, a public officer, employee and staff meeting, and who does not request an open hearing. And we'll be doing that at the end of this meeting. Agenda approval. Is there any items that need to be?
There's no changes to the agenda, but you do have a folder with materials for the 2 executive sessions on the dais.
All right.
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented. Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. All right. This portion of the meeting will be public comments. Any item that is not on the agenda tonight, this is the time to step to the podium and state your name and anything that you would like to speak about. Is there anybody that would like to speak to the council of a non-agenda item? Nope, there is none. All right, we will move on to the public hearings. The public hearing is still open and for ordinance to be read as a second time by title only and considered by adoption. And the rules of order for the public hearing were read in its entirety during the regular session of September 6, 2023. At this time, is there any additional council declaration? Shows there is none. With that, can we have the staff report, Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is the second reading. You've already heard all of the information last month. There's no new information to present or share. I think all parties, are in agreement at least to move forward with the recommended conditions that we discussed last month. This is a rezone also from medium density residential to commercial for Mike Becker's property. And the 2 conditions that everyone has, for the most part agreed to, or at least not objected to, is a traffic study requirement at the time of a future development proposal, so that will be based on an actual project and not a hypothetical or conceptual scenario. And then the second one is that at the time that there is a project proposed and it goes through a site plan review process, that it also goes through a similar process in Island City, since most of that road access is going to be going through Island City, is just to make sure that their land use interests are addressed. But other than that, there's no other changes. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
So we're looking at just changing the zoning to commercial. And so these other issues that came up with the letters from Island City and ODOT, we can deal with later.
Correct. That
Or should we do it now? Are we putting the cart before the horse if we approve now, is my question.
So that is, I guess, the decision. That's what we discussed last month, and my recommendation is to deal with them later. because the ODOT and some of the Island City comments relate to conducting a traffic study. And if we do that today, it's all going to be based on hypothetical and conceptual, I guess, development concepts. And generally, when you do that on the front end, as you're predicting the highest or most, I guess, greatest impact to the system, and then you try to plan the system accordingly, as opposed to if we do it later when an actual project comes in, then you would evaluate it based on that actual project. In this case, I mean, this is an 8-acre parcel. If you look at all of the parcels in that area, there's probably 30 or 40 acres worth of property in there that probably all need to be included in a larger traffic study for how does all of them impact the Walton Road intersection, not just this one 8-acre parcel. And so I think it makes sense to wait for a project to come in, because a project will likely include multiple properties, and maybe another property will come in first that might have a bigger impact and trigger that. So part of it is a cost savings for the applicant. It's also not running them through extra hoops that, really aren't necessary at this time. And so I think what we've, I guess, collectively everybody's okay with are the 2 conditions, so that at least we're still taking all of those steps before project happens. So we're still ahead of the game, but we're not, I guess, basing everything on a hypothetical scenario.
So a traffic study will need to be done eventually. Who pays for that?
That's kind of a negotiable item for the most part when a project comes in, but for LeGrand's code, we require the developer to pay for that. But it also is going to kind of depend on what is the project and, what does the jurisdiction, how does the jurisdiction want to partner with that? Are they going to help share that cost depending on what it is, and what do they want out of that?
It's kind of weird spot with Island City and LeGrand. It's right on that border.
Yeah, but typically a developer pays for that, and that is part of why the recommendation is to make it a condition of approval, because in this case, it is the developer's responsibility. And we would, if they come in with a project completely different than what the study is today, they may have to do another traffic study when their project comes in. And, so it makes sense just to do it once. And so that's why the condition is there.
Okay.
But Mike, we're taking out commercial, you're changing it to commercial from residential,
Correct.
which we need residential land available for building. Because you're looking at a hypothetical problem of, do we know the developer is going to have a commercial business in there? For sure.
Well, in this case, if we rezone it to commercial, then yes, because that's what the zoning would be
But what if
intended
now
for.
he turns around and says, oh, I think I want to build a subdivision here instead? We have to turn it back to residential?
Well, that's the scenario. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
I know.
And,
It's hypothetical, what you're talking about, because you don't know for sure the builder is going to build a commercial in there, right?
Yeah. Right. The challenge with turning it back to residential is we currently have, and I have it in the report somewhere, but we have 200 plus acres of surplus residential.
Okay.
And so the challenge with going to residential is that you have to identify a need for the residential. And if we have 200 acres of surplus,
Okay.
it's going to be pretty hard to rezone it back to residential at a later time.
So therefore, and we are short on commercial,
Yeah, right now,
right?
yeah, based on, we'll talk about that later, but yes, right now we do have a shortage of commercial, or a need for, maybe not a shortage of commercial, but we have a need for an additional 60 some acres of commercial.
Because that's the whole thing, because both situations are hypothetical.
Right, but we don't have a need for additional residential,
Okay.
but we do have a need for an additional 60 acres, and this is 8 acres towards that 60.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted you to identify that. Thank you.
I have another question. If we change this to commercial, should we require a second access road? Because there's just one road in and out. Should we do that? Is that going to be part of the traffic study? I just look at that area and it's like, there's no way, there's only one way out, which,
Yeah, so at this point, that's already been looked at through, I think it was the South Riverside Neighborhood Plan,
there
which
was
Island City has
something.
adopted.
yeah.
And so that has a through connection that comes from, I think it's E Street or E Avenue in Island City, and then it comes through, connects somewhere in the middle near Walton Road. And then on the LeGrand side, we have a connection theoretically that would go from Miller's and it would continue through and tie into May Lane at kind of like Riddle and West at that intersection. It does require that it goes through that trailer park, so there has to be some changes at some point in time to make that connection happen. But then on the north end, closer to where this property is, as part of a prior master planning effort, the applicant was required to create an emergency access road that connects to West Road. From a practical standpoint, we really don't want that to be the location of a permanent road, because it dumps a lot of people out into a very small county road. And so the location is just not ideal, but it's okay for an emergency. And so that is currently there, that easement is there. And so I think the answer that I would give you to your question about should we require something like that, I think that should be based on the traffic study and based on the project, because not everything is going to require the same transportation network coming and going. And so it would be best to wait to see what the needs are of a particular project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, didn't that road originally, when they originally put that subdivision idea in mind, that it was also going to connect out, not on Hunter, but someplace out that way in Island City? It seems to me like
I think there was a concept that pushed something out, more parallel to the river and
Yeah,
went out, came out closer to, where the railroad,
Right.
where the bridge crosses over the river.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But yeah, that wasn't adopted. I mean, that was in one of the concept designs
Okay.
back in the day. But yeah, right now I think that the E Avenue connection is the one that is the most logical for how things currently exist. There's just other development in there that's probably going to make that a little challenging to accomplish today. But
That makes sense.
but that's ultimately the plan.
Okay, thank you.
And have they put applications into Island City for, do they need to change their code? No?
No, they don't need to change their zoning because their zoning is already, I think it's a business park zone.
Okay,
And so they may need to rezone that depending on what the proposed project is for that land and how Island City's code addresses that. But that is, right now, this is just step one, is getting the LeGrand 8-acre piece commercially zoned. And then when the project comes in, then that's when the condition number 2 would tie in, where you're going to go to both cities and you're going to submit an application to make sure that I actually have access to my property and meet the land use requirements.
Mike, as I recall, the last meeting you indicated that we really had not received any feedback, positive or negative, from the neighbors of this property. Has that changed at all since the last?
No, you haven't received any feedback from anybody actually since the last meeting.
All right, is there any more questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to invite public testimony in favor. If you could please write your name and address on that for us, please. We do have a 3-minute time limit with testimony.
I'm going to keep it short. My name is Maggie Mayhem. I'm the program lead for the Union County Warming Station. And I came here to speak in favor of Underground Oasis. And
This is
oh,
for,
shoot.
no, you're good.
Oh.
That's the next one.
The next one.
Yes,
Oh, when
ma'am.
you guys were talking about Miller's, my brain clicked.
This is the new Millers, not the old Millers. The next one, though. Thank you. This one is for, just so that way everybody else knows, the property across from Walmart, then where the new Miller's is next to it.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Becker, the applicant, and just a brief statement. We think this zone change fits the area. Makes sense to make everything compatible. A residential thing wouldn't fit back there very good with what's currently there and what's going on. It's kind of a dead end, and there's an opportunity to build an RV park and some storage units, and that's a tentative plan I have. It's a big step, and it'll take a lot of cooperation from a lot of people. I'll need help from you guys to get by Island City and ODOT if we can actually benefit LeGrand by what I want to build on LeGrand side. So that's about all I got. Anybody got any questions that I could answer? There's been concerns expressed about Island City, and we're fully aware of what we have to do to get out and get across the crossing. We've had 3 or 4 projects in there that have been successful, and everybody's cooperated. At the end of the day, there's always a lot of concerns, but once they realize how little impact it really has, there's not been any real challenges. And I've recently kind of made a deal with a Kubota dealer to build a 5-acre tractor dealership in between KIE and the mobile home people and the Oxark building. So that'll be a pretty low traffic development. So we're trying to stay inside the box and not load the intersection up any more than it already is. But if we're going to do anything, we're going to have to use it. So I cut off any questions or?
So your plan is to do an RV park then?
Preliminarily, yes.
And how large of an RV park are you talking?
Well, we have a draft conceptual feasibility study based on 100 units.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll just say, I expressed some concerns last time. I worry about long-term RV usage, but I will say, I think, Mike, you're a respected builder in the area, and having been in many of the buildings and things that you've built around here, you do good work, and I would expect that, you were to do an RV park, that it would be kept well and not be an aesthetic issue for the city.
All my consultants that I've dealt with prior to this date say you should avoid long-term tenants because of the things it brings. The unit gets old, and so we're focusing on a short-term. There'll be monthly rentals, but there'll be guys in town for various projects or kids going to school or people in transition. They've sold their place. They're going to go hang out in an RV until they can get another one built. People coming to town to look for jobs and temporary work. So the goal is to have a different park than the Rendezvous. I have nothing against them. They're filling a need for some people, but mine won't be built with that in mind. So. Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll fill this out in a minute when I get my glasses. I'm Dave Comfort, Mayor of Island City. Fully support the projects that are being talked about. And I think the crossing there at Walton could be overburdened. And we just want to make sure that we're considered, being that the track kind of overlaps between LeGrand and Island City. So fully support what is happening. No issues there. And we may have to grapple with, not grapple, but we may have to, I need to make sure that our zoning is the right zoning also. And this may help us with that decision once we get right to it. So again, I'm all for the zone change. We want to see it grow too. So if you guys have any questions of me, I'm happy to take.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can I take this back?
All right, any more testimony on this portion? No more? Okay. Counselor discussion.
I see no reason not to pass it.
I think it's a good project, and I think is a good way to get us more commercial land.
You ready for a motion?
Nope.
Okay.
At this time, I will close the hearing and entertain a motion.
Oh, okay.
Now we're ready.
I move that the proposed ordinance rezoning property be read for a second time by title only, put to a vote and adopted.
Second.
Perfect. Any more discussion? Nope. At this time, the city recorder, if she could read the proposed ordinance by second time by title only.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Grande, Oregon, rezoning property from medium-density residential to general commercial on the zoning map, from residential to commercial on the comprehensive plan map, and declaring an effective date.
Thank you. At this time, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nope. All right. We will move on to the next public hearing. So this public hearing is the second reading by title only for a proposed ordinance rezoning property from light industrial to general commercial on the zoning map from residential to commercial on the comprehensive map plan. Once again, the public hearing is still open for the ordinance to be read a second time by title only and considered for adoption, and that the rules of order are still in place from the public hearing when it was read in its entirety during the regular session of September 6, 2023. Is there any counselor that has a declaration from then to now? There's none. With that, can we have the staff report, Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this application is for the Underground Oasis. Yeah, and the former Miller's lumber site. So this is from light industrial to general commercial. And just as kind of a recap, your conversation was almost identical to the Planning Commission's conversation. It was very lengthy and focused on the same issues with supporting the Underground Oasis activities, but as well as looking at just different types of commercial uses and how they're compatible with their neighboring uses. And not every commercial zone property is suitable for every commercial use. And so that's reflected in the staff report. Your comments from last month are reflected in there. And so it's at this point, based on your discussions last month, it is the staff report and the findings are structured to support the rezone. And do you have any questions or clarifications that I could provide?
Thank you, Mike. This time we would like to invite public testimony in favor.
Hi. Now that I have this right, my name is Maggie Mayhem, program lead for the Union County Warming Station. And I really appreciate the idea of the Underground Oasis being at its current location where it is and expanding and being rezoned commercial so that they're able to do what they want to do with the space. With the partnership with the warming station, we're not faith-based. And so when it comes to recovery and people finding the support that they need, I find that the partnership with Underground Oasis is super important because they cater to a specific need, and that's usually faith-based. It's long-term support. A lot of the people that come to the warming station for assistance also go to Underground Oasis, and seen a lot of progress with a lot of different individuals. So just wanted to put my 2 cents in there. Sorry for speaking out of turn the first time.
Oh, you did perfect. Thank you.
Mayor, councilors, my thanks for your attentive listening to us last month. Also, my thanks to Mike for his tutelage in helping me prepare that application for underground. And I have one other thank you. I'd like to thank the media people who have put a little article in the paper called More Than a Rezone. And I am very gratified and overjoyed at the clarity that came through. So sometimes there was confusion. So that was great. Thank you. So my comments are I'm going to try to keep them short. I'm entreating you to vote for this for 3 reasons. I think that first and foremost, we're about community. We're about making the city of LeGrande in this county a better, safer place. We think we can do that through education, through support, and we understand that you're about community too. You have to make some of the same decisions we do. We're just a much smaller venue. We want you to know that when we talk about community, we also have a number of supporters that we count part of our community. We feel like that many of the agencies here in town, we need them. We need to work together to accomplish what we're doing. I also want you to know that many of the churches in the area have already stepped up to the plate and said, we want to support you in any way we can. So this is a multifaceted group effort. And at the end of the day, community is what it's all about. Just a quick comment about economics. It would seem counterintuitive to take a piece of property that's generating roughly $700 to $1,000 a month in revenue for the city and turn that into nothing. However, I would like to tell you that the global effect on the community can be transformed in many different ways. And the aesthetics of being in a downtown area where one's safety is in question will continue to be a challenge for us. But at the end of the day, every business, every person adds to the overall flavor of safety and community that we enjoy. And
Hands up.
Thank you.
And just a reminder, if you guys could state your name, because I know most everybody probably knows who Dan is, but there's some people that don't. So for the record, just please state your first and last name only. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any more favor and or testimony in favor? Neutral? Opposition? Nope. All right. Council discussion.
No, I think we captured it last time in our conversation. This is a great grassroots community effort for something that we need terribly. So I'm just appreciative of all the people who put time and energy into this. It's really impressive. Yes.
All right. If there is no more, I will close the hearing and entertain a motion.
I move that the proposed ordinance rezoning property be read for a second time by title only, put to a vote and adopted.
Second.
Any more discussion? Nope. All right. At this time, could the city recorder read the proposed ordinance for the second time by title only?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Oregon, rezoning property from light industrial to general commercial on the zoning map, from industrial to commercial on the comprehensive plan map, and declaring an effective date.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There is none. Thank you. All right, there is no unfinished business. New business. Considering, yeah. We'll take a moment and let everybody resituate. You have a good evening.
That's okay, that's what I do. No, you slept through it. It's got rubber stamps. Good thing though, because Gary was really worried.
I think that's who I had. Go back and see what I wrote. Yeah. Yeah, that's Howard.
All right, I think we can continue on. Can we have the staff report?
Yeah, thank you. So this item is an annexation of property up at the upper end of 12th Street and off of Gilcrest Drive. And this is a typical annexation that you've seen many times before, where the property owner is in the urban growth boundary is looking to develop the property and is requesting city services, and we offer that opportunity in exchange for annexation. And anyway, so the property owner has submitted a request for that annexation, has coordinated with Public Works on getting services installed, and is actually going through the building permitting process right now in anticipation of your approval tonight. And yeah, so with that, do you have any questions?
No, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Public comments? There's none. Councilor discussion? Entertain a motion?
I move that the proposed resolution annexing property located at 1605 Gilcrest Drive be read by title only, put to a vote and pass.
Second.
We had a motion and second. Any more discussion? Nope. At this time, could the city recorder read the proposed resolution by title only?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, declaring certain territory annexed to the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, specifically property at 1605 Gilcrest Drive, Township 3 South, Range 38 East, Section 17BD, Tax Lot 600, and removing said property from the LaGrande Rural Fire Protection District.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? There's none. All right, our next one is considering ratification of ratifying the application for a technical assistant grant from the Oregon Department of Land I can't speak tonight. Conservation and Development. Mr. Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for going
So this is a grant from the Oregon State Planning Agency that oversees all cities and counties, and generally related state laws and mandates that get passed down to all the cities. The state legislature often allocates grant dollars for technical assistance. This particular go-around is focused on economic development, so it's not focused on addressing any of the new laws or mandates. And we've just finished our Goal 9 economic opportunities analysis, which you'll probably see in February. I think you'll see it in maybe a work session in January, hopefully. And so we have a few more things to wrap up before you'll actually have it before you for a decision. But right now, that final report shows that we have a need for an additional 121 acres of industrial land and 63 acres of commercial land added to our city for addressing our next 20 years of economic growth. And so that's the, I guess, in a nutshell, outcome of our economic opportunities analysis that we spent the last year or so working on. The next step is goal 14, which is to actually expand our urban growth boundary, go find those properties, expand our urban growth boundary, bring those into our jurisdiction so folks have the opportunity to develop on those. And so that's going to be quite a chore. That is something we chatted about during budget time and probably last year, I would imagine, or at least during our retreat. And we have about $30,000 in our current budget for this effort. And but what we've kind of anticipated and what we've actually found is there's elements that are part of the goal 14 that we didn't know the cost for. And one of those is, as part of that, you have to do a traffic analysis with the lands that you're going to bring in to make sure that you're taking a look at the capacities of the highways and the intersections in the county that are not developed to an urban standard, and putting together a plan. And it's just part of your selection process is where do you have capacity challenges as you're making these land choices, and making sure you pick the right properties and you have the right solutions to urbanize them. And so anyway, the total project that's estimated after we've gone out and had some consultant input is roughly about $95,000 to do this project. And it's a significant amount. And the state has approached my office and said, hey, why don't you apply for this grant? Because economic development is our #1 priority out of all of the technical assistance grants. And since you just finished your Gold 9 stuff, is you're going to be ranking at the top of the choice, the top of the list for getting awarded. And so it's not guaranteed, but it's looking really good since a lot of the other cities are going to be applying for the Gold 9 piece. And since we funded that ourselves, that's kind of some bonus points for us. And so the grant deadline was Monday. I actually submitted last Thursday or Friday to make sure I got it in time, but it was before this meeting. And so that's why I'm asking you for approval after the fact to submit this grant. But more so, I think I gave you a heads up last month, but more importantly is if we're lucky enough to be awarded, that you also authorize the city manager to sign the contract documents for that grant. And then I also have a letter for the mayor to sign. If you support this effort, that the mayor would sign a letter that shows the city council support, which is something the state is now requiring for most of their grants, that we're not just randomly applying, that we actually have our leadership support. And so that's what I have before you. And if you have any questions on this effort, I'd be happy to visit with you.
47.5 would be grant
From the state,
from the state.
Yes, and so, yeah,
So 47.5 coming from the city, 30,000 this year, 17.5 next year.
yes,
So-
I'm kind of pre-committing the budget committee and city council for next year. So hopefully you guys all
Right.
still support me in May
Right.
Just to
so it's
seven-
got that, it's not that much.
17.5, is that all?
Right.
for next year. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens if we don't get the grant? Then
Well, if we don't get the grant, then we're going to be having a different conversation because the $30,000 is roughly a third of the project. And so we're not going to be able to do anything.
Uh-huh.
And so that's where we're going to have a different conversation of, do we wait for the next grant opportunity and just keep applying till we're eventually successful? Or do we want to come up with that money somehow to do it? So I think that's a different conversation I'd rather have after we see how this grant goes, because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for me to ask the city council for in a planning budget. But
but the 30,000 was already approved in the budgeting process. So,
yes.
So, okay. Yeah, free money's good, or money from somewhere else.
I just have two comments. I mean, one, why are we so off on our estimate? I mean, 30,000 and 90,000 is huge. Is that just the the costs have escalated that much, or did we not,
Well-
really just not have a sense of how much this was gonna?
What's the transportation piece? And part of it was looking at how do you phase in the different elements? If we do the Goal 14 piece, can we do the transportation piece at the end? And the transportation piece that's the most expensive
That's the
piece,
cost.
is hiring a traffic engineer to come in. And they were, I think, close to $40,000 just for the traffic piece. And that's maybe one of 5 elements that we look at. And so it's a big item. And so that's kind of where we're at. And plus, the numbers that we were looking at are kind of based on what did other cities pay in years past. And as probably most of you know, costs have gone through the roof anyway the last couple of years. And a lot of it is, gets passed on to us as the applicant, or as the customer. But anyway, yeah, so we were off that much. So
just the second thing is from a larger level, I don't know what I wouldn't approve as far as applying for a grant. I mean, applying for grants is a good thing. That saves us money. I realize there's some staff time involved, but I mean, can we blanket approve application of appropriate grants here? Do we really need to have because I'm worried about things like that where, hey, you're having to submit this. There's a hard deadline we're up against. Council meetings don't fit well in deadline territory, we're doing them once a month. So is there some process to circumvent that and make that streamline it so that, we're not having to have staff come in every time they need a grant?
Yeah. I'll take that one, Mayor, if I could. The city council could take an action that authorizes me on the behalf of the city to apply for grants. And in that, we'd have parameters that talk to how that would work. And what I would envision is I would have the authority to apply for those, keeping the council informed. But the actual acceptance of the grant when awarded would still reside with the city council. And then for these where we are hiring consultants, you approve those contract awards anyway, just as you did in the consent agenda for the police thing. So and the other thing that we have done, and this is just the added step to kind of check the box, is we come back and have you ratify. But we could certainly put together an action item that would empower me to apply for grants so that they're done without delay with council notice. And it would streamline it and make it much simpler, particularly in a case where we've already budgeted dollars towards the effort.
Right. I would propose that we do that. Again, we still have to approve it as far as accepting it. The application, I can't imagine the scenario where I would say, no, we shouldn't apply for that grant.
All the grants have to go through you, or can they go through the department heads? Because they're the ones who are kind of, applying and seeing what's coming up.
They have to go through me.
They have to go through you, okay.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's just, hey, we're applying for a $5,000, $4,000 grant. What you see in your monthly report that we sent out yesterday, there's actually a form at the back that lists all the grants that we have in the works. So it's pretty much an email, hey, Robert, I'm applying for this. A lot of them we just do routinely, so there's really no formal process for these smaller grants, 5,000 or less. If we're asking for dollars for a wild horse, it's more of a make me aware that you're doing it. A multi-thousand, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 grant, I would not be comfortable with a department director just doing that, particularly if it has a significant budgetary piece for match. That's where it's not just, oh yeah, let's go get $50,000 of free money. If it's $50,000 with a $25,000 match, we do not want the directors doing that in a vacuum.
Anyway, I would just suggest if there's support among my fellow councilors that we maybe make that a future action item.
I think it's a good idea.
It really makes sense. There's no, and the grant money is good money to have, because if we don't get it, somebody else will.
We don't have to accept it.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions for staff? Thank you, Mike. At this time, we'd like to invite public comment. There is none. Councilor discussion. Entertain a motion.
I move that the city council, I guess we could ratify it now, the action to submit a grant, an application for a technical assistant grant from the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development, and further that the city manager stroke be authorized to sign grant documents if awarded.
Second.
Perfect. Any additional discussion? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Excellent. All right, Mr. Mike, looks like considering final plot for MBM Estates Subdivision Phase 1. Staff report, sir.
Okay, thank you. So this is a fairly routine process for you, and not a whole lot of, I guess, decision-making, because this is the subdivision process typically goes through the Planning Commission, gets approved, then the applicant goes and builds their development, and then once they've built the elements that were required, then they submit a final plat, say, hey, I built what I was required to do, now I'd like to get my plat finalized so I can start selling lots. And so your role in this process is really just to, yep, you built your stuff, and so we're going to approve your final plat, then you sign it. I have that, it's actually in the table in the room behind you. And then that plat will then go to the county, and they're going to have the exact same conversation that you're going to have tonight is, yep, you built everything. And so then they sign it and it gets recorded, and your signature and the county's signature are required mostly because there's public right-of-way being dedicated. And so you're receiving those right-of-ways as public. And so in this case, the developer has, the project is in the back of your packet. They have a 4-phase subdivision. Tonight, they're only asking for approval of phase 1. And this first phase is constructed. The street's been constructed. I have 4 inspections that Public Works has done for us for the road improvements to make sure that they meet our minimum requirements. And so this project is ready to move forward to the next phase. And at this point, I guess I would ask for your support in signing the final plat and moving it forward to the county, and so that the developer can then start building on each one of these lots. Do you have any questions?
Are these the kind of retirement, like little retirement homes along there? Is that what
No,
this is?
no. So this is kind of across the street from the drive-in theater. So between 16th and 18th Street. So right now this phase is accessed off of the 18th Street side. But these are just small lots that they actually got a variance through this process to make these lots the size of what our new code is. So this is probably the first development that you're going to see with the less than 5,000. They're kind of average somewhere between 3 and 4. And they're not necessarily tiny cottage homes, but the square footage of these homes, I think they're probably 1,200 square feet-ish or so. And but they're just a little bit larger than our cottage home standard, but it's a subdivision, and it's intended to kind of fit that market demand that we have in our housing needs analysis for workforce housing. And at this point, while all of these lots will be sellable lots, at least from a platting standpoint, the developer has indicated it's their intent at this point just to rent them, and it's kind of an investment opportunity for them. But it is being platted, so the opportunity, should they ever want to, they could sell them. So that's kind of the status that we have. But yeah, do you have any other questions?
So there are no homes built yet. Okay.
No, and I think we have
So I know
one.
where this is, but I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, there's nothing other. If you drive out there today, all you're going to see is a concrete road. Yeah.
Are they building, are they planning on building a spec home or anything?
I'll let you ask the applicant that question because he is here. But anyway, at this point, I think building permits are in and ready to be issued, but there is nothing built yet. So are you done with me? You ready for the applicant?
Sure.
Hi, Logan McCrae, representing MBM Estates. Spec home, that's kind of dead. Spec home as far as like speculatively building it to sell it.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, what our intention is to just build all of these homes. They're about 1,300 square foot of living space and another 300 square foot for a garage. And just about as simple and as nice as we can build them, just to provide affordable housing. Initially, like Mike said, to rent them out, but eventually, I'm sure they'll be sold. So, yeah.
Okay, so you won't build anything until somebody buys the lot.
No, we'll build them. Yeah. So phase 1 is breaking off 10 lots total.
Yeah.
And so that'll be one shop and 9 houses. And we're going to build those houses and then rent them out, long-term rentals.
Okay.
Yep.
So will they all be exactly alike then?
As confusing and crazy as this process has been so far, we have settled on one exact floor plan to get us through building the first couple houses. I would imagine we'll probably get bored with that, and maybe so will our tenants. And so we'll probably explore once we kind of get up and running different floor plans. But
The plan is for 28 total units through all phases.
Yep. So, there'll be 29 lots total. One of those lots will have a shop on it with a small residence upstairs, like an apartment upstairs. And so the other 28, 25 of those will be single family residents, and then 3 of them will be multifamily, but it'll look like 2 houses on the same lot. And that's what we had to do, go and asking for the variance to get the smaller lot size to meet the high density residential standard that the city has, which I think is 11 houses per acre. 11 or more. Yep. And so after we backed I think it was 4.13 acres, we backed the city right away that gets dedicated to you guys. We backed that out and apply that acreage. That's where we landed. So it'll be a total of 31 livable structures. Yep. If I'm doing my math right on the spot.
Looks good.
It does. Exciting.
Any other
Definitely
questions?
needed.
Right,
Good. All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Logan.
Do we have any more public comment? None? Any more council discussion? I think it's a good project. We need more. And you have a comment? Motion?
I move that the final plat for MBM Estate subdivision be accepted for signature and recording.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? There's none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. All right.
Somebody else gets to talk.
Hello, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to ask for approval on 2 different motions. The first would be to spend the $180,000 that we budgeted for a wildland engine in the budget process. And in addition, we're asking for an additional 30 from the CIP funds to complete the project. So I tried to explain it well in the CAF, but what we found is looking for an engine, there's not a lot available. And the ones that are available are over our budget, our 180 budget. So we got to looking at alternatives. We found that finding a chassis available was difficult as well. And so we looked at ordering one. We were talking somewhere in the $75,000 to $85,000 to get a vehicle that would be comparable to what we need. In addition to that, I think the biggest hassle would be, we're talking late spring, summer. This is all before the strike that's currently going on. So I don't know how that'll affect it. Excuse me. So one of our firefighters actually found 2 chassis that are available. They were purchased in January, ordered previous to that, to build wildland engines on. They're both 5500 Dodge crew cabs. And the builder has actually changed direction. So they're going to use Ford chassis because they do it's probably more information you care, but They do a PTO pump, which runs off the transmission. And the Dodges aren't really appropriate for that because they're electronic transmissions or PTOs rather than gear driven. So that's his only reason for changing. So these two are available to us. We've negotiated a price of $70,000 a piece. I priced them out today. If I was to price and build them, they'd be $77,500. So the extra funds would be to purchase both chassis, have one upfitted to a Wildland engine type 6, then take our current chassis, which is a 2003, and upfit it with the new chassis as well as a new pump to match. So they're both exactly the same, run the same, new warranties, just all around better equipment. We'd use the hose reel, the tank, and some of the other parts off of our current engine to save some dollars. But I think with a maximum extra amount of the $30,000, we could accomplish both of those. So, have any questions?
So in other words, you're asking for $30,000 more to upgrade our old truck and build a new truck. So we're actually going to have
So we
two new trucks
budgeted
versus
130 or 180 to buy one Wildland vehicle with the thought that eventually we would upfit or change our reserve vehicle. This would allow us for 30,000, we would essentially end up with two new pumpers.
With warranties and everything on it.
Warranties on not only the vehicle itself, but as well as the upfitted equipment.
So Chief, you're taking, and I'm trying to picture this in my mind, you're taking whatever makes a truck a Wildland Fire engine, that portion of it, and putting it onto a new truck from the existing one that we have, and then the other one's just going to be brand new.
The other one, yeah.
But so are there upgrades to the firefighting portion of this that we should be considering? Because this is going to be a 20-year-old.
Yeah, that's the other portion of the extra funds would be, we can actually purchase both chassis and have one upfitted for the 180 that we budgeted, or probably a few dollars more than that. I haven't got actual quotes, but I've got some pretty good figures. The additional 30 is to upfit the new one with a comparable pump. It would be exactly the same pump, foam system, and a control panel so that they function exactly the same. Everything other than the tank and the hose reel, which
Those are parts with longevity.
right.
Okay.
So everything else would be replaced to new equipment.
We get a 2-for-1 out of this.
Yeah, that's essentially where we're at. A lot of the work will be done in-house, so the firefighters will mount the boxes and do some of those things to save funds.
Is the purchase of the trucks from a local dealer? Can I ask?
It's not actually a dealer. He builds Wildland vehicles, and it's in Milton Freewater. So,
Is it just like a dude who does this, or is it a
yeah, he actually,
business?
he started out building them for himself because he's a wildland contractor. And then people liked his vehicles, so he started selling them. Now he sells them all over the place. So,
So will the Dodge be as good as the Ford then?
yeah, for our purposes, because the pump that we would put on them is actually a standalone pump. It's run by a standalone engine on the back of the truck. So it doesn't run off the actual vehicle engine.
Okay.
His runs off of a PTO, which is runs off the side of the transmission.
Okay.
We need to be ready for wildland fires because they're coming.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about, the need for the second one. What that does is gives us that flexibility of multi points of attack. They're mobile. It also allows us, if we have state conflicts, which we haven't been able to go to in the last few years because we only have one vehicle, and when they need help, we typically need to make sure we're here. So it gives us the ability to help them. So I think it's just all around it's a good project.
And as I recall, that's potentially a source of revenue for the city by
Right.
lending
Yeah.
this truck out.
If we go on conflags, there's also opportunity, I think, Logan left, but opportunity locally with the ODF. If off-duty firefighters want to come in, we can do some severity coverage for them. Conflag, they pay us per diem rates for the vehicle, they pay overtime for the members that go, they pay overtime for the members that have to cover the station. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Any more questions for Chief? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, we would like to invite public comment. There is none. Counselor discussion?
I think go ahead.
I was just going to say, Robert, I'm curious. So, I mean, this pulls 30,000 out of this general reserve fund. Do we backfill that every year? Is that 300,000 that we budgeted specifically for miscellaneous things, or this is a reserve fund that we've had for some time? We're going to be pulling out a little bit out of the piggy bank to do this.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So, I don't know, 6 or 8 years ago, we purposely started putting dollars into the general CIP for things. Nothing specific. Library roof is a great example where we had built some dollars up and then used that along with some proceeds to buy out the warranty on the prior roof. And then I think 4 or 5 years ago, the council passed a resolution for a portion of the unanticipated increase in general fund cash to be put into the general CIP. And so the dollars that we allocate into that then go into this fund, and this is the budget line where those are. So we have been putting them aside for future purchases. You know, this is probably one of the better examples of an opportunity to leverage those dollars and end up with a pretty good outcome. And so next year we'll do the same thing per the resolution where we're going to put some dollars in there, assuming we have an unanticipated increase in cash, and just continue to build that. And we've generally budgeted $200,000 or $300,000 of that in case there is some expenditure that we have to cover. I think we covered part of the chief's new police chief's car after that got totaled, and I think that's the line that we use to do that. So,
I mean, I support this. I want to be sensitive to, you know, those funds and the ability to maintain some balance in the piggy bank there.
Any more counselor discussion?
I think it's a wonderful idea. To get 2 for 1, basically.
A motion?
I move to approve the fire chief's purchase of 2 Dodge Ram 550 or 5500, I don't know how they call it, chassis, and 1 Wildland engine built for $180,000 budgeted in the fire department's 23-24 budget as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Show none. All in favor? Aye. All right.
So since that was budgeted, do we have to vote on that?
the amount of the purchase exceeds $150,000, and therefore, yes, you do.
So we do. Okay.
So now we're on to the second motion, correct?
I move to authorize the fire chief to expend up to $30,000 from the budgeted general reserve CIP for the upgrade of the fire department's 2003 Wildland engine as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? There is none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. There you are. Union County Commissioner update. Hello, Commissioner
Hey.
Scarfo.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. I apologize for missing last meeting. I was trying to get some fair funding. So I thought that would have good enough excuse for me to miss the meeting. But I did want to bring up the one thing that the mayor brought up at last meeting was the Eastern Oregon Economic Summit. It was fantastic. We had 300 to 400 people coming in out of the area to enjoy Union County and Grande. The dinner was amazing. I want to recognize Mayor Rock for showing up for the dinner and to all the speeches on the following day at EOU. The field house was fantastic, very great venue. It's very big, needs to be bigger, but when you put 400 people in there, it's tiny. It's so big. Sorry, the space is so big that 340 people, it made it look small. Thank you very much, Counselor. But we had Congressman Bentz was in town, Senator Wyden was also here, and Senator Merkley zoomed in to make an appearance as well. That's really fantastic. We had over 12 legislators here. I spoke to a lot of them about the tours. They were very impressed on what we're doing here in LeGrand and Union County. And as you know, most of them think that Bend is Eastern Oregon. So when they came this far and saw what we were doing, it was really an eye opener. And just to be able to have them applaud us for what we're doing and how amazing it is over here, I thought that was a very, very good summit, and I want to applaud the Eastern Oregon Women's Coalition for putting that on. I was going to write Representative Levy a thank you note and everybody else, but I ended up just calling her the very next day, said, thank you very much, when are you guys coming back? And she's going to try to rotate, so we may see this come back in maybe 3 years, 4 years, but it's a very, very good time. And next time, if more people could show up, that'd be fantastic. Locally, that'd be awesome. But Mayor Rock, thank you very much for being there and supporting LeGrand. For everything else, kind of gearing up for the short session, but summer, things slow down a little bit, especially after budget time, but gearing up with more meetings right now through the fall. And if there's any other questions I could answer. Not yet, but the short session, I have good hopes because this is Senator Hansel's will be his last year and his last chance. And after he was during the, I didn't tell you about the economic summit. One of the questions I had was, how do I proceed with getting fair funding legislatively? And they pretty much said, good luck next year. And when I was waiting for the second half of the outbreak sessions, Senator Hansel came up to me and said, what are you doing for the rest of the day? I said, I was going to do the breakout sessions. He says, I think I want a corn dog. And I said, let's go to the fair. So I took Senator Hansel and met with Jamie Jo Haddock, the president of the Fair Association, and we gave him a tour of the whole fairgrounds, showed him our problems, and this couldn't happen any better. We went to go see Lions Club, and John Howard was there cooking corn dogs, and Senator Hansel and him go way back. And John started saying, oh, you just watched, Bill, the sink clogs up all the time and blah, blah, we have no way to put water anywhere. And the timing was absolutely perfect. And the sink backed up and ran dang near in between the senator's legs while he's eating his corn dog. And I was like, John, if you did that on purpose, thank you very much. But it was, so Senator Hansel was engaged, Representative Lee was very much engaged. So I hope for his last kind of hurrah next year at the short session, he remembers this, and I want to keep on him a little bit. So I have really good hopes for that. So yes, and I missed the breakout session. He's like, you sure you don't want to stick around? I said, I have nothing more important to do than go buy you a corn dog at the fair right now. So, and I said, but if I come to your fair, you're buying me a corn dog, and you, Matilda. So that was a very nice moment, and the fact that the drain backed up between his legs. Well, he's yes. Yeah. But, yep, that was the update I have there. We're still looking for other smaller grants. 5 here, 10 there. Very hard to get to $1 million going with that small, but any little bit helps. But any other questions, county-wise?
Quick one. I saw they were doing there was a traffic study strip down Owsley Road. Are you guys looking at that at all?
Oh, I do not know about that one. That would be Commissioner Anders. He's got public works. I could.
Just curious. It was
Okay.
down there for a couple days, and I thought the road is not that it need be said publicly horrible and getting worse. And I don't know, the county's just putting a ton of money into putting gravel down, and in 18 minutes, it's off the side of the road and the washboard's worse. So I think there's a sort of iterative loop.
We have many of those roads to where it's like, let's just chip seal them. And they're like, no, we don't want to chip seal them because then people drive faster and we'll have more people. And so we have this like, well, how do we solve this problem? What is the correct solution to get everybody happy? And that's where we're always running into. But I completely agree. You put the down and then
10 minutes.
10 minutes later, you're back
And if
to.
the argument against improving a road is that people might use it, one might take pause. Like, I don't know if that argument holds a lot of water.
There's a couple roads where I get complaints and I'm like, how would you like us to solve this? And they don't have a solution.
Anyway,
You know that problem now?
bad road.
Two questions for Matt. So one, I know that we have the Greenway project, kind of idea that we'll probably have some joint meeting with Island City. And I don't think we have that scheduled. Is that correct?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
I will be attending the Island City meeting next week on Monday, and I'll make sure we bring that up and kind of make sure it doesn't get dust on it again.
I'd like to keep that kind of at the forefront and not let that hit that back burner too much. But and then the other is I got wind of something about state funding for roads was going to be a little bit down this year, and so they thought that they may not be clearing roads as often as we're heading into winter. I'm just wondering is that of any concern?
No, it's always a concern.
Okay.
100%. There was some talk about ODOT not, I'm not the right person to answer this, but I'll do my best. They're not giving the counties as much funding for road maintenance as in the past. I don't know if that is final. I don't know what the final reduction is, but I could find out for you. Yeah. That was in legislation last year, and I will double check where that was at. Yeah.
Any more questions for Commissioner Scarfo? Your time. Thanks, sir. Staff comments. Is there any staff that would like to make a comment?
I'll go first. Mr. Mayor, councilors, I got a couple of project updates and then wanted to cover a couple of topics. So project updates, I don't know if you've been up there, but there is asphalt going down on 2nd Street as of, I think it was yesterday we started. Actually, not yesterday, we started on Monday, but then it rained. So just like every other week and every other project, we get at least 2 days of rain. So really slowing down everything. Anticipate that the final lifts will go on next week. And so we should have an open road by the end of next week. Still trying to target a few more street projects for the year, but if you haven't noticed, fall is setting in quickly and we're not sure when they're going to shut down the asphalt plant. So we're just going to put our heads down and pave as much as we can until they close it down. So we'll keep you updated on that.
What's the criteria for shutting them down?
When they no longer want to pay for the oil and gas that it costs to keep the oil heated overnight.
Okay, so it's not a temperature thing, it's just, is it?
It kind of is.
Yeah.
I mean, if they have enough projects on their log that they can make enough money to justify paying that kind of natural gas bill, they'll keep the burner running. But as soon as it's like, hey, we'll just push all these jobs till next year and save us some money, they make that call. So the other ones going into fall, this will be our last meeting before we get ready for leaf removal. So it isn't until November, but as always, the city will be removing leaves with our sweepers, with a project we run together with Waste Pro. So we'll go around, we'll clean the leaves from the street. The intent is only the leaves from the street. So we will put out the public service announcement, please don't shove your leaves into the street, especially right after we go through, which tends to happen quite often. But and then the other one I wanted to cover real quick is, I don't know if you remembered 6 months ago, we kind of took a look at the snow removal policy. So as you get prepped for the coming months and possible phone calls, I just wanted to take a second to remind you the results of that meeting and kind of the couple of updates so you can answer questions. I have a meeting this Friday with our IT people. We're going to really look at a similar system, what the county has with the blast out on the texts. So I'll give you an update next month on how that meeting goes to see if we can find a service to make that work. And the other major update that I wanted to remind you was we discussed no longer using the 6-inch for the entire town. The new test we're going to run this year is looking at collectors and arterials at around 4 inches. And then moving to the whole town at 6. So if you had any other questions, be happy to answer them.
I do. Okay, so right in front of Bernie Park, right where you turn, tons of glass all over on the thing.
Sweet.
That's a bike lane. That's how you
Yeah,
know.
it's in the bike lane. And so are we having plans to remove that? I mean, we kind of swept it to the side, but
I can ask. I don't know if we've been notified or not, but we can send a sweeper over and take care of it.
That would be really nice.
Okay, Kyle, I've had people ask me, if you're not doing 12th Street, are you going to patch the holes?
We are planning to do 12th Street in the spring.
Summer, though. I mean, this year yet.
Well, usually the snow fills the potholes.
It's really a lot of fun to drive it.
I'll get it on the list. Usually, the hard part is I'm trying not to spend the $2,000 to $3,000 to keep that road nice for 6 months. And so we'll see what we can do about making it a little bit more manageable, but we do anticipate getting 12th Street.
I've had several people ask me that just recently.
That's what I do. I avoid 12. I go with 16.
16th and 12th, or 20th.
So for leaf, how are you communicating the leaf collection?
Usually we do a lot of public service announcements the few weeks building up to it.
Is it going to be on the website?
Usually we just put the public service announcement on the website, but we can try and find some way to blast it out there with social media and other things.
And then
Sometimes
the text blast would be for snow removal. And
to start,
how would that look?
it would
What would
be
my phone say?
tradition. How I would like to see it is the night before we're going to be plowing. Please keep your cars off the streets. Tell which areas we're going to be starting in so people know whereabouts we're going to be. It's really hard to put it out there on where we're going to be that far in advance because you never know when you're going to get slowed down. But kind of just getting people a general idea. Yes, we're going to plow tomorrow. These are the streets we're going to be looking to plow, collectors and arterials. Go to our website if you want to know what streets those are. And we're anticipating it starting at this time.
That'd be great.
So
We do. I mean, we have so many places where, like, I'm thinking, like Washington, where the whole street is parked cars.
mhm.
I mean, you do. There's not even. I don't even know if there's a place for those cars to go half the time. So
Yeah, it's difficult. So
Right.
usually we try and have them park on a side street, at least until they can get to work. The operators have gotten real good about using the wing. They'll carry the snow as far as they can and then dump it whenever there's not a car so that we try not to burn people in. There's just a limitation to the equipment. There's only so much you can do.
right.
So, yeah, there's lots of difficulties, but we always hope and anticipate, on sweeping days and on days where we're plowing snow, that those kind of notifications can get people off the street we're working on and help us be more effective.
Right. I mean, it's got to be better than nothing. Yeah.
Sometimes, other times, we've had multiple ones where the people who line the street have complaints that we never get up to the curb when we're doing the sweeping. We notify them the day before, still cars there. So, yeah, we'll keep doing it though. All right, so I got sweeper over on C Avenue in front of Bernie Park.
Yes, on the field side, on the EOU side.
All right,
That's where it's at.
on it.
A lot.
All righty, thanks so much.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Just want to give you an update on staffing at the police department. I don't know if you follow us on social media or maybe see it on our website, but some might wonder, why do we continue to have so many vacancies at the police department? We've retired 11 people since 2020. And we have 2 more that are leaving within the next 5 to 6 weeks. So that's why. And recently, we have an administrative assistant position that we filled, but we filled that from within the department. It turned out that the top candidate was one of our own. So that turned out to be a promotion, created another vacancy. The same thing happened with a secretary position, which is really kind of a record specialist. So that vacated our code enforcement and our reception position. So we helped ourselves, but we hurt ourselves in the same breath. So we continue to have 3 dispatch vacancies, have 2 people deep in the selection process there, so that's promising. And we recently had a longtime sergeant retire, and so we have a police officer vacancy as well. So if you know anyone, if you're interested yourself, fill out an application. But anyway, we're on it. And I also wanted to just share with you as a reminder, this coming Saturday, not this coming Saturday, Saturday, October 28th, from 10 to 2 p.m. is drug take back, and we'll be at the Safeway parking lot. And for the record, there's always a drop box for your expired, unwanted, unneeded drugs in the lobby at the police department, Grande Hospital, Safeway Pharmacy, and Red Cross Drug. So anyway, come see us at Safeway. Any other questions?
Well, after you get all these hired, then you won't have any retirements anymore, so you should be good for a long time.
That's the plan. Yeah, we're going to lock the doors and not let anybody out. Yeah, and we're getting some, I'm not willing to lower standards. Recruiting and finding good people is very challenging. And I think you all probably hear the same thing in public or private sector. But we cannot lower standards at the police department. So finding the right people is sometimes hard work, but we've got some fantastic new folks throughout the department in dispatch and, in uniform. So yeah, our community deserves that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
I just wanted to give you a little nice success story, I guess, on the addition of the 3 additional firefighters, 1 per shift. So on the 22nd of September, we had a fire at the wood grain mill on Island Avenue at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And we were able to respond with 6 firefighters, 2 on the ambulance, 4 on the engine. And the availability of 6 people on scene initially allows us to go inside that fire and find it and work on putting it out. It wouldn't have taken a whole lot longer for that fire to burn. Luckily, first off, somebody spotted it and all the smoke. But with the 2 in, 2 out OSHA rule, with 5 firefighters or less, we would have to delay that response into the building. So with 6 people, we were able to get in there, find the fire, start tearing the floor up, and made a significant difference in a pretty important employer in our community. So I just thought I wanted to say I appreciate the extra staffing and let you know it makes a difference every day on our medical calls as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Any more staff comments? All right, Mike. City manager comments.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to welcome Carrie Quinn, our new admin assistant upstairs. So we're back to fully staffed. So welcome. That's it. I've got more stuff, but that's for other parts of different meetings.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Seems like the chamber is hiring for a new director. Is that process, is the hiring committee comprised of the chamber board, or how does that committee look?
As far as I know, it's just the chamber board. I'll reach out and find out.
I just have one thought. The position is, help me out here, 25% chamber, 75% tourism. It does strike me as a little odd that the chamber would be constituting the hiring agency when 3/4 of the job lies outside the chamber. And I hadn't thought of it until recently, and that may be related to some of the turnover, because I think that, not that they're working at cross purposes, but I think that they might want different things out of that position. So for the city and the county to hand hiring to them when it's for 25%, do you understand what I'm getting at?
I do.
So just something to maybe think about. Okay.
All right. Counselor comments, Marianne?
Just that this weekend is the Harvest Festival, and the council will have chili at the cook-off. So come down and try the chili. I think there's 7 or 8 teams competing.
Can you remind everybody what time it starts?
Oh,
And when and where, yeah.
okay, it's at Matt's parking lot. I guess it's your parking lot, right? I will. Please. I'm tired of saying Matt's parking lot. And the tasting will start at 4:30 for that. The chili cook-off starts at noon if those want to take that long to cook between noon and 4:30. The festival itself starts at 11 and goes to 4. And we have I think I have about 30 or 31 different spots that people can go to and look at things. And the police will be there with one of their cars, and the fire. Well, yeah, don't let those guys retire until, okay. And the fire are coming, a fire truck and an ambulance. And then I talked to Bruce today, so he will be driving the old bus, or the old fire truck around too, for rides. Yeah.
Is there a central location? It's just still in the parking lot?
The chili is.
Okay, but as
The
far as
rest of the,
festival itself, yeah,
the
is there a
festival is
central
on,
location?
is running from 4th Street to Greenwood, just on Adams, except that I have blocked 4th Street from Adams to Washington. So, should be fun.
Perfect. Thanks, Marianne. Denise, do you have anything?
No, I think this has been a very productive meeting.
So I have something else on Saturday. It's the community tree planting. So you could do that in the morning and then go to the chili cook-off. And so my family has been doing that for years. So the tree care coordinator purchases trees and they get planted, and they need muscle to plant them. So they teach you how to plant the trees and have locations for them. My kids and I have done that for years, and it's kind of fun to say, I planted that tree and look how big it is. So, but that's a good way to get back to your community in a little way. And it's going to be nice weather. So I think in the spring we were digging in the rain. So that's all I got.
There's one other thing. There's the 7th is just an incredible day. Let me just say. There's also a preparedness kind of a fair happening at the LDS Church on 12th Street. That they're doing preparedness. They have a lot of community people coming in and speaking and how to prepare, what you could do for quick heating up your house and so forth. And there's no electricity and so forth. So I mean that is also happening, but that's just in the morning. It is done by 1. So, which is
sorts
great.
of choices.
Cool.
Quick note, a colleague and I wrote a grant last spring, early summer, and we just found out State Parks is giving us $75,000 for the pump track. That puts us within shooting of having the money we need, which is like 146. We're within 10 at this point, and so we're pretty confident we're going to wrap that up. So the build will definitely be happening, and I'm grateful for State Parks for kicking down.
All right, now it's on to me. I do have a couple proclamations I would like to read. First one is City of LeGrand, the proclamation Domestic Violence Awareness Month, DVAM, October 23rd. Whereas the City of LeGrand joins in the dedicated efforts of Shelter from the Storm and partnering agencies and encouraging citizens to engage in public and private efforts to generate understanding of issues surrounding domestic violence in our community. Therefore, I, Justin Rock, Mayor of LeGrand, Union County, Oregon, do hereby proclaim the month of October 23rd as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in our city. The other one is City of LeGrand Proclamation Extra Mile Day, November 1st, 2023. I, Justin Rock, Mayor of LeGrand, Oregon, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2023 to be Extra Mile Day. I urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but to also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and community to make their organizations, families, communities, county, or world a better place. With that, we are done with our first one. We are going to recess to the Urban Renewal Agency. Correct? You need a moment, Brent? Perfect. Thank you. And with that, can we have, I'm going to call to order the Urban Renewal Agency regular session. And with that, can we have a roll call?
Justin Rock,
Here?
David Glabe,
Here.
Corinne Dudo,
Here.
Nicole Howard,
Here.
Molly King is absent excused, Marianne Miesner,
Here.
Denise Wheeler.
Here.
Perfect, thank you. The Urban Renewal Agency will meet in an executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660 to consult with counsel considering the legal rights and duties of a public body when with regards to a current litigation and litigation likely to be filed. With that, agenda approval, I don't see anything. Consent agenda, does any of these items need to be, they're the minutes, do they need to be removed or do we have a motion?
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
At this time, we'll have our public comments for urban renewal. So if any citizen would like to step up to the podium and speak on any non-agenda items, now would be the time to do it. If so, there is none. Perfect. Public hearings, there is none. Unfinished business, there is none. New business. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the agency. You'll recall that the council passed a resolution that authorized me to accept and complete sales of all lots where we have no competing officers at full price. We were actually able to exercise that authority for the lot that is currently under construction. We received another full price offer, but the title company was not willing to act on that resolution, much to the disappointment of myself and the city attorney. But they're the ones that hold the authority in terms of closing sales. And in order to complete the sale, we do need to do a resolution. The resolution is crafted in such a way that I'm still authorized to accept full price offers. We just will need to have a final action by the agency to approve the sale. So an added step in the process. And I'll be happy to answer whatever questions you may have.
So this is not legally required, it's just being requested by Eastern Oregon Title.
Eastern Oregon Title, who does the closing, will not close without this authority.
But there's no state regulation that requires us to.
Just being very cautious.
Is there any more questions for staff? There's none. Public comments? There's none. Any more agency discussion? Motion?
I move that the resolution authorizing the district manager to accept offers and sell agency property located at the Grande Business and Technology Park be read by title only, put to a vote, and passed. Second.
Any more discussion? Nope. At this time, could the city recorder read the proposed resolution by title only?
A resolution of the City of LeGrand Urban Renewal Agency, Union County, Oregon, confirming the authority to accept offers and sell agency property and declaring an effective date.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There's none.
Thank you.
District manager comments.
Just to let you know that we're working on the part of the Goal 9 economic analysis is also then going into the comprehensive plan and updating that. So we're going to be engaging the URAC in November to take a look at the final report that the consultant did and to take a look at the current language that we have and make recommendations on potentially some change in policy. The last time that we updated that was about 20 years ago. And what we'll do is we'll take the report that we just had done by the consultant. We'll take a look at the most recently approved economic development strategy that has been approved by this body and see if there's any language changes that we need to adjust in that. And we're anticipating a work session with the agency / council, I believe on January 9th to go over those recommended revisions. And then the planning commission will hold their first meeting on that, I think on the 9th. And then we'll go through the process to update that portion of the comp plan. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that we're working on that. That was it.
All right. Any agency member comments? Nope. All right. And then at this time, I will adjourn to executive session. The agency will not be reconvening. How about we do a 5-minute break before we go into it?
Yeah, and we will come back as the city council just to reconvene and then adjourn to executive session, and we won't come back from that one. So we're really going to not be any more business taken by either agency tonight.
So at this time, we will come back to the council. And now we're going to go back into executive sessions, which we will not return after the executive session. Is that correct, Robert?
Yes.
So I can use my little.
Good job, Justin.
I like you.